Good morning. This is Frontline News with Lee Dawson and me, your military correspondent, Warren Thornton. We're going to talk about the subject of Niger because that is very much in the headlines, and we're going to let you know exactly what's going on and what the Western media are hiding away from you. So it is necessary to discuss a couple of subjects before we get right into this. So, first of all, there is a company called Arriva in France, and their documents, shall we say, or their contracts with the French installed government of Niger were always top secret. Nobody can see them. And basically, what was happening was they were making 85% of the profits were going to France and only 15% to Niger. So the people were living in poverty. And now the Russians and the Chinese came along and said that we'll give you 50% of the profits if you'll do business with us. The people of Niger rather liked that idea, but the government didn't. So very simply, they were overthrown. Now, people will go Russia-led coup and all this, that, and the other. Nothing could be further from the truth in terms of Russia leading a coup. If anybody ever leads a coup, it's normally the Americans. Now, Burkina Faso and Mali know which side their bread is buttered, and they wanted a better deal, so they decided to get rid of their French-installed puppet government, and now Niger are doing the same. This has led France to issue a dire warning that they didn't carry out, but may well do in the future. When you remove all your people from foreign soil, that normally means the airstrikes, or which is a wonderful euphemism for carpet bombing of civilians to get them to play ball, is coming. They didn't carry it out simply because Wagner turned up on the airstrips, and they don't want to start a direct confrontation. They'd much rather you didn't know about it and a little bit of a war went on its own. However, the Americans then jumped in, and we'll get to that in a moment. So Niger want to be independent from France. France have been absolutely stealing from Africa for many, many decades. And in fact, over the last 50 years, France have seen about the overthrow of many countries in the African nation. In fact, in the last 50 years, they've had 21 presidents either removed or assassinated. Yeah, that many. Once you don't go along with what France wants, it's the same thing as what the Americans do. So we'll come to the Americans now. Now, Wagner forces tried to enter from Mali. Many of them flew in direct, but Wagner forces tried to enter from Mali. Now, this was stopped by Al Qaeda. Yes, working on behalf of the Americans. This Al Qaeda that had been responsible for the death of many, many Western people down the years are suddenly our new best friends, rather like the ethnic cleansing lunatics of the Azov battalions in Ukraine when that was funded. And if you weren't quite sure about that, here comes a quick history lesson. So we have this NGO, or non-government organisation, called the National Endowment for Democracy. And the head of this, the sort of PR arm, if you like, and the State Department arm of this, which is really the CIA just wrapped up in another package. And we'll go through that in a moment too. So this National Endowment for Democracy pours money into countries, and it tries to take over the state media, bribes politicians, and funds opposition to the government that they don't want in. The idea is you get a visit from Victoria Nuland, which, as I say, if you go back and look at the Ukraine-Russia conflict, her and the National Endowment for Democracy are absolutely 100% guilty of this starting this conflict. So to get on to Victoria Nuland, she is, if you like, you will hear this term neocon or war pig. And this is normally what happens is Victoria Nuland will turn up in your country, tell you to play ball with the West, and if you don't play ball with the West, there will be dire consequences, which soon follow. Some other people have termed her the angel of death, because wherever she turns up, death, destruction, disharmony, and riots follow. And that's what normally starts it off. It's normally riots by the opposition, and everybody goes, oh, freedom, they're freedom fighters. Well, and one man's freedom fighter is another man's terrorist, and the other way around. So let's get right into exactly what happened. So they are now turning around America and demanding to see the deposed Niger president. and Nuland has warned of the consequences if you don't do this. She recently visited Hungary, which also would make, I would think, Orban very nervous, and indeed he's coming under fire, and also Belarus as well. So let's get right into this. We're going to give you a list of just the interventions by the CIA and the National Endowment for Democracy, as it is now. National Endowment for Democracy tried to overthrow the Venezuelan government in 2002 and 2019, and also Honduras in 2009 and Bolivia in 2019. So we're going to go through the US interventions in just Latin America alone, just Latin America. So we've got Guatemala 1954. Now, you'll wonder why they go and do this. Well, this was over the Tinned Fruit Company. They were going to, the profits that they were making were huge, and the Guatemalan president, who is still revered to this day, wanted to send the Americans packing and for them to control the profits that were coming in and give that money to his people. The CIA had him assassinated. And if you think that that sounds a bit crazy, yes, they're willing to go to war over tinned fruit or assassinate presidents over tinned fruit. Imagine what they're willing to do for uranium deposits. Now, uranium deposits in France, in Niger, sorry, are very, very important for France because 30% of their households run on the uranium that directly comes from Niger, and 70% of their energy is nuclear. So you can imagine just how important that is. In fact, if the uranium deposits to France were to stop, it would plunge France into a bigger recession than Germany are currently going through. But I digress. So we've got the CIA, or National Endowment for Democracy, which is the new PR arm of the CIA. So we've got Guatemala in 54, Honduras in 1988 and 2009, El Salvador 1979, Nicaragua in 79 and 81. They were very busy around that time. Costa Rica in 1948, Panama in 1989, and I was there. Peru 1963 and 1990, Bolivia 1971 and 2019. There's another country that the NED tried to get hold of. Chile in 1964 and 1973. Argentina in 1976. Yes, they caused the Falklands War. Uruguay 1973. Paraguay 1954 and 1989. Again, paid a visit there. Brazil 1964. Venezuela 2002 and 2019, Grenada in 1983. I think you can all, some of us can all remember that one. Haiti in 1991 and 1994, and currently, and the Dominican Republic in 1961 and 1965. Now that's just in Latin America. That's not all around the world. So you can see that once these people turn up in a country, there is a good reason for it, and it's normally to stop the spread of communism. And as communism isn't a big thing anymore, it's to stop Russian and the Chinese. There's always a big bad wolf at the end of it, but at the end of the day, it comes to money, and it's who is giving the incumbents of that country the best deal. Russia and China want to make sure that they get 50% of any deals that are done, and France don't want to lose their profit margins. And for that sake, neither do America. Always follow the money. It gives you a true idea of what's going on in the country. Now, what the current situation in Niger, the stadiums are full of people who want, obviously, a better life. And it is always a thing, isn't it, when you hear about immigration? Well, there are some facts on this that you need to hear and need to learn. We in the West are talking complete nonsense. So there are 580 million people in the world who live on less than £2 a day. That's fact. They are multiplying by 40 million a year. So even if you took 1 million and dropped them into a European country, it wouldn't make one iota of difference. What, however, would make a difference was if the people in their own countries, instead of having cross-culture clashes, were able to make their own way in the world, and we were able to raise them out of poverty and thus raise them to the same level as first world countries. to make everybody as equal as they should be as possible. And if they're those people's minerals and resources, they should be making the profit off them and not us in the West. So if you raise them out of poverty and everybody's getting along well, cultures can go and mix with each other whenever they want. But all it is just a replacement of the ideals of how these people want to control everybody's life. For years, we have cherry picked the very best doctors and very best scientists and everything else from Africa and dragged them over to the West to carry on our bidding. This is now going to stop. What the advent of BRICS and the Africans finally having leaders that are refusing to be bribed or refusing to be bought. This may be starting to come to an end. And I, for one, applaud it. And I think so should you.